Hi guys, my name is Laura and today I want to talk about my reading taste. And what better way to talk about my reading taste than talk about a few books that I read in the year 2020 and that I either enjoyed or didn't enjoy as much as I'd hoped for. So, let's get going. First book I want to talk about is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom a few years back and I really enjoyed them, so I thought that I wanted to try out something different that she wrote, and since Shadow and Bone is set in the same universe, I thought I would like it as well, but I didn't really enjoy it. I think it was too short, and the world that I really liked from Six of Crows wasn't as fleshed out in this novel as it was in the other ones. I know that this was written before Six of Crows, so I can't really fault her. But I guess my expectations were a bit too high, and I don't think I will continue on with this series because it was too romancy. I didn't like the characters. It just wasn't for me. So Six of Crows, yay. Shadow and Bone, yeah. The second book I want to talk about is Piranesi by Susanna, which I read back in November, I think. This is about this guy called Piranesi who's stuck in this house, which is the name for the place he's in, and it's kind of reminiscent of Greco-Roman architecture, and he's walking the house and there's statues and weird stuff and things like that, and there's a big mystery surrounding the house, so he doesn't know why he's there or who put him there, and he doesn't remember his past life. So what I liked about the book was the great setting, which was unlike anything I've ever read before. The intriguing mystery that surrounded this house, this place he was in, and simply the fact that it was really different from books I've read before. It is kind of in a journal style, and yeah, really good book. So next up we have Lobizona by Romina, Garber and Akata by Nnedi Okorafor. Those two books, I put them in kind of the same category because they're kind of similar. They both take place in a magic school, and they're inspired by different cultures, by which I mean not like Western European culture, but this is inspired by African culture, and this is inspired by South American culture. And they take place in magic schools, both of them, but they borrow heavily from whatever culture they're inspired by. And I really like the setting in both of them because they were so different from the things you normally read in the European fantasy books or American fantasy books. Where they differ is the execution. I really enjoyed this Akata. It was a great read. I kind of couldn't put it down. Lobizona, on the other hand, it didn't go where I hoped it it didn't pan out how I hoped it would. So in the second half, it kind of, the romance is in the foreground, and there's this weird Quidditch thing where they take place in, and it wasn't for me. So I won't be continuing this series, but I have to pick up the follow-up for Akata because that one was really great and I like this book much better. But both of them had a different setting and were inspired by different cultures, and that's something I very much like. So next we have the Mistborn Trilogy. This is the first book, The Final Empire. I've read all of these before, so I started to reread them last year, and they were Sanderson, a well-known author. This book, what I liked most about it was the world and the magic system, but also the plot and the mystery surrounding the Emperor, which they were going to overthrow. That's the plot of the book. And he's immortal and kind of invincible, and no one's ever gotten near him, and so they're trying to figure out how to kill him. And I really liked the book. I really liked most of the things in the book, and the series is one of my all-time favorite series, and I can only recommend this one. The next book I want to talk about, which I don't have here because I gave it to my mother, is Alte Sorten by Ewald Arenz. This is a German book by a German author. It's not available in English, but I think I can talk about it just a little bit because it still shows what I enjoy in my contemporary literary novels. So the book is about a young girl who runs away from home, and she finds shelter with this older woman who owns a farm, and she just stays with her for, I think, a few weeks. A short amount of time. She stays with her, and they develop this really unusual friendship, and they really get along, and you also get glimpses of the farm life and how everything on the farm works, which I didn't think that I would enjoy that much, but overall it was just a really great read. It was slow but very well written, and I cared about the characters, and I couldn't put it down, so I really read it really fast, and yeah, it was a great book. So if you happen to be German speaking or know some German language, check that one out. So the next one I want to talk about is A Peculiar Peril by VanderMeer, which is very weird. If you have read this author before, you know that he likes to do some body horror fiction stuff. I really enjoyed Annihilation from the Southern Reach trilogy, so I hope that I would enjoy this one as well. This is his first YA fantasy novel, and I think it's as weird as the other ones, but the execution was not that great. So the plot of this book is, it's about Jonathan. His grandfather dies, and he goes to this mansion, and he ends up in this parallel universe. It's a different version of Europe, and he has to find his way back home or save the world. I don't really remember. Something in this parallel universe. And this parallel universe, this other Europe, it's really weird and really interesting. But the characters were so not interesting, and the plot wasn't really there, and it became a slog to read through, and at the end I was just skimming because I don't like to leave books unfinished, or at least I didn't at that point, so I think I've switched to just DNFing books that I don't really enjoy because life's too short. But at that point I really wanted to finish this, and I also hoped that it would get better and give me that satisfaction I was looking for, but unfortunately it didn't. So there was one character, her name was Ruth. This one I really enjoyed. She was a great character, and I would have liked, so if this book had been solely about her, I would have read it, but it wasn't, so yeah, I won't read the second one. So next I want to talk about the epic fantasy. So I've got here The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, which I really enjoyed. The only thing I wished it was longer. So this is 800 pages long. It's a standalone, so it's not a series, and I think it would have worked better as a series. So as a trilogy, or maybe just a duology, I think that she could have fleshed out the world a bit more and the characters, because I really like the characters and the world, and I would have liked to read more about it. So it works as a standalone, but I really just wish it was longer. So another book in this epic fantasy category I wanted to talk about is The Way of Kings, also by Brandon Sanderson. I think I forgot it on my shelf, so I just put up a picture somewhere. Unlike this book, The Way of Kings is a series, and it's a very long series with very thick books, so a lot of space to develop characters and plot and the world, and that I enjoy. And I really enjoyed this series. I enjoyed the series. The second in the epic fantasy I want to talk about is The Ember Blade by Chris Wooding, which I listened to as an audiobook. It was, I don't know how many, 30 hours or something, so it was also a very thick book. But it was just, it felt kind of generic to me, so it didn't have that that punch, that something that just keeps me reading and going. And I don't think I will continue on with the series. It wasn't really bad. It was just not very remarkable, and that for me is just, there's so many other books, and if the series doesn't bring that punch that I'm looking for, I don't think I will continue this. Yeah. So next up is the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. This is the first book, The Blade itself. I've also got this as an audiobook, and I've listened to the second one on audio as well. Haven't read or listened to the third one yet, but I will soon. So if you want to listen to an audiobook, I really recommend those, because the narrator, I think his name is Stephen Pacey, I think. He's really great. He's doing a really good job with bringing all those characters to life. And since this trilogy is about the characters, first and foremost, that's really a great thing. So the world this takes place in is kind of meh for me, and the story is also kind of meh to me. But those characters are great, and I really enjoyed the books, and I think that for me, those books are just like the perfect audio books. So I will listen to the third one as well. And so far, I'm really into these books. Next we got The Baron the Nightingale and The Girl in the Tower by Katherine. This takes place in medieval Russia and is heavily inspired by Russian folklore. So I'm not really into Russian folklore. I picked it up because the cover looks nice, and when I started reading it, I didn't think that I would enjoy it. So I thought I would enjoy it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have picked it up. But I really enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. So the first one, The Baron the Nightingale, I loved this book, so it was so great. I don't know, it really got me. There were horror elements in this book that left me really scared when I was at home alone and no one was here and it was dark, and I was like, yeah, maybe I should do something else right now. So this one was really good. And then I picked up the second book, and this one was not as great. So the main character goes to Moscow. The first one takes place in a small isolated village in winter, and once you get to Moscow, this place was full of characters, and this intimacy from the first book was missing that I really enjoyed about the first one. Also, the horror was not that great, so I didn't like that one as much as the first one. So it was kind of a letdown after the high hopes I'd built up. But I will read the third one as well to finish the trilogy, because I still think that those are great books and interesting books. Next I want to talk about, not this one. Next I want to talk about The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which is a fantasy novel set in New York, and it's about cities as persons. Yes. Yeah, so this is about cities coming to life as people. And it was a really fun read. It was really different from your usual urban fantasy, so I really enjoyed this. I like the writing, I like the villain. I really wanted to know how this book ends, and I'm really looking forward to the second book. Yeah, it just has such an interesting concept, and I'm all for interesting concepts and different things, so really great book. And the last book I want to talk about is the third installment of my favorite series of all time, the Divine Cities trilogy, and this is the last book, City of Miracles. I really, really, really enjoyed this trilogy. This is my favorite trilogy, like I said before, and the third book, I put off reading this for a while, so I don't know why. Looking back, I should have read this much sooner. It came out in 2017, I think, so almost 4 years ago. I just read it last year, and it was great, and the others are great too. In case you don't know what it's about this. So there's the continent, and on the continent there have been gods, and the people have lived with those divinities, and those divinities have kind of dictated their lives. And at one point they conquered other parts of the world, and then Saipur, a smaller country, they defeated the gods and kind of took over the continent themselves. So that's the premise for the books. And what I really, really liked about the books is the divine. So the divine is so interesting in these books because it feels divine. And those divinities, they also feel like not just like they're very powerful humans, but like they're really deities. So I really enjoyed so many things about these books. The characters were great as well. So each book in the trilogy focuses on a different character. I liked all of them. I liked how it ended. I cried when it ended, but it was, I think, good ending, a great ending for a great trilogy, and yeah, I should read them again because they're so good. So I hope you could get a glimpse of my reading taste. These are books that I read in 2020. There's many more that I enjoy, and I will go on reading and read many more books this year. So yes. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, that's good for you. So you didn't waste time on me. So thanks for watching, and have a nice evening, day, morning, night.